posting this because my therapist said writing it out might help. So, here we go. For 6 years, my family called me pathetic for spending every Friday night with my 89-year-old grandma, instead of having a life. My cousin literally told me in front of everyone that I was positioning myself for the money. I wasn't. I didn't even know she had money. Then she passed away, and at the will reading, my whole family found out exactly how wrong they were. Okay, so for context, I'm 27, female, and I've basically been the forgettable one in my family my whole life. Not in a sad, dramatic way. Just, you know how every family has that one kid who's not the golden child and not the problem child, they're just kind of there. That was me. My older brother Colin was the golden child. Captain of his soccer team, then captain of his frat, then captain of whatever corporate job he landed after graduating. Loud, confident, always the center of attention at every holiday. My cousin Priya was the sweet one. My dance would just melt around her. Meanwhile, I was the quiet one who nobody really thought about unless they needed a favor. The one person who never made me feel invisible was my grandma, Eleanor. She was sharp. Like scary sharp for 89. Raised 4 kids basically alone after my grandpa died young, and quietly built up this little laundromat business into owning 3 actual commercial buildings downtown. Never bragged about it once. To the rest of my family she was just mom, someone you nod at during Thanksgiving and then forget exists for 11 months. I started visiting her on Fridays in college, honestly at first just because she made insane pot roast, and I was tired of dorm food, lol. But it turned into something real. We'd talk for hours. She taught me how to actually read a lease, how to budget, how to hold my ground in an argument without losing my cool. She told me stuff she said she'd never told anyone else, losing a baby before my mom was born, stuff about my grandpa, stuff that felt like she was trusting me with something important. Colin actually said to me once, mid-beer, "Why do you waste your Fridays with an old lady? She's not even that fun anymore." She was standing right there in the kitchen doorway when he said it. Didn't say anything, just went back to washing dishes. I never forgot that. Pretty sure she didn't either. Here's the thing about my family. Nobody was outright cruel. It was more like lazy neglect dressed up as being busy. Everyone had an excuse. Colin had a demanding job. My mom had her own health stuff going on. My Aunt Denise lived 2 states away and always said she'd visit next time she's in town. Spoiler, there was no next time for like 9 years straight. I watched Grandma slowly just stop bringing them up in conversation. Not bitter about it, just resigned. She'd ask about Colin's job out of habit sometimes, but you could hear it. That flat tone like she already knew the answer wouldn't matter either way. The last 2 years of her life I literally moved 15 minutes away, specifically to check on her more. My mom called this sucking up. And then at a family barbecue, my cousin Priya said out loud in front of literally everyone, "It's kind of obvious what you're doing, Mara. Everyone sees it." I asked what exactly I was doing. "Positioning yourself," she said, "for the money." I actually laughed because it was such a weird thing to hear out loud. I hadn't thought about Grandma's money one time in 6 years of Fridays. Nobody laughed with me though. A few people at that table actually nodded, like Priya had said the quiet part out loud for everyone. That's when it hit me. My family didn't know what to do with love that didn't have an angle. Because none of them were capable of showing up without wanting something, they assumed I couldn't be either. I never told Grandma what Priya said, but a few weeks later, out of nowhere, doing the crossword together, she just goes, "You know they think you're after something." I shrugged, said, "Let them think what they want." She put the pencil down and looked at me for a solid 10 seconds. That's exactly the right answer. Didn't think much of it then. Think about it constantly now. Grandma passed in February, peacefully, in her sleep, 3 weeks after turning 91. I'm the one who found her. She didn't pick up my morning call, so I drove over. I'm the one who called the funeral home. I picked the flowers because nobody else offered, and someone had to. The funeral was honestly the most family I'd seen in one room in years. Colin flew in, dressed sharper than I'd ever seen him dress for anything. My Aunt Denise showed up with her husband, and I overheard her. I don't think she meant for me to hear, asking my mom in the parking lot, "Did she say anything to you about the properties?" At the funeral, in the parking lot, before we'd even gone inside. 2 weeks later we all got called to the lawyer's office for the will reading. Everyone showed up early and dressed nice, which honestly should have been my first clue something was off. Colin brought an actual legal pad, like this was a business meeting, and not his grandmother's funeral aftermath. I sat in the back like always, genuinely expecting maybe her old sewing kit or a photo. I want to be really clear. I was not expecting what happened next. The lawyer, this calm older guy named Mr. Aldridge, who'd known Grandma for like 20+ years, starts reading. First part's normal. Jewelry, furniture, sentimental stuff split between the grandkids. My mom got Grandma's wedding ring. Colin got Grandpa's old watch. Aunt Denise got a china set she'd always liked. Then it got quiet. To my grandson Colin, I leave $5,000, and I hope it goes toward finally visiting the people who love you, before it's too late to matter. Colin went white. Nobody laughed, but a couple people definitely wanted to. To my daughter Denise, I leave $5,000, and my hope that next time I'm in town, eventually becomes something more than words. Denise's mouth just opened and closed. No sound. To my niece Priya, I leave nothing, and no explanation is required, because she already knows why. Priya, who'd walked in looking very confident, suddenly looked about 6 years old in that chair. Then he turns the page and reads my name, and I swear my heart actually stopped for a second, because I genuinely was not expecting this. To my granddaughter Mara, who showed up every Friday for 6 years without ever once being asked to, who sat with me through the loneliest nights of my life, who never once mentioned money or asked for anything, I leave the remainder of my estate. The 3 commercial properties on 5th and Main, my investment accounts, my house, full ownership, no conditions. The room didn't just go quiet, it went cold. Then Mr. Aldridge read one more note Grandma apparently wrote separately, word for word. To the rest of my family, I loved you, and I want that on record because I don't think I said it enough while I was alive. But love that only shows up for funerals and inheritance readings isn't love I owe anything back to. Mara gave me 6 years of Fridays I never asked for and won't forget. Everyone else gave me excuses. I'm not angry. I'm just done pretending the excuses were good enough. Colin's legal pad literally hit the floor. Nobody said a word for what felt like a full minute. So obviously it went about how you'd expect, and also somehow worse. Colin tried to contest the will within the month, hired a lawyer, tried to argue undue influence, basically claiming there's no way Grandma just chose me on purpose. It went nowhere. Turns out Grandma had gotten evaluated by 2 independent doctors for mental competency in her final year. Specifically because, direct quote from her lawyer, she said, in case anyone tries something stupid. She called it. From beyond the grave, she called it. My Aunt Denise straight up stopped speaking to me. My mom barely said more than a few words to me for almost a year. And honestly there's still a distance there I don't think is ever fully closing. Priya hasn't spoken to me since. Not one word. I'm not gonna pretend the money didn't change my life, because it absolutely did. Paid off my student loans in one afternoon. Kept the laundromat and 2 of the buildings running because I liked knowing her work was still standing. Sold the 3rd one to start a scholarship in her name for young caregivers, people who put their own lives on pause to take care of aging family, like I did, without expecting anything back. But honestly, the money's not even the part of this that gets me. It's the 6 years of Fridays, the crossword puzzles, the pot roast, her stories about Grandpa. Just like quiet, unremarkable evenings that nobody else in my family thought were worth their time. I didn't show up for an inheritance. I showed up because a lonely old woman was good company and somehow became one of the most important people in my life. The money was never the point. It was just proof, at the end. Anyway, that's the whole story. People keep asking if I feel guilty about my family being mad. I don't really. She saw what she saw. If someone in your life shows up for you without being asked, text them today. Don't wait for a will to say thank you.